Have you ever met someone who instantly made your blood boil? Maybe it was a coworker whose confidence felt unbearable, a family member whose arrogance seemed impossible to tolerate, a stranger who hadn't even spoken more than a few words before something inside you decided, "I can't stand this person." The strange part is that other people don't seem bothered by them at all. Some even admire them. So why do they affect you so deeply? Why can one person completely disrupt your peace while everyone else moves on with their lives? Most of us believe the answer is simple. They're the problem. They're selfish, they're fake, they're arrogant, they're everything that's wrong with people. But what if that explanation is only scratching the surface? What if your strongest emotional reactions have very little to do with the other person, and almost everything to do with you? This idea is uncomfortable. It challenges one of the oldest habits of the human mind, blaming the outside world for the storms that begin within us. Because the truth is this: the people who provoke the strongest emotions in us often become mirrors, reflecting the parts of ourselves we have never learned to face. It sounds impossible, maybe even offensive. After all, why would someone else's flaws say anything about you? Yet this disturbing question became one of the most important discoveries in the history of psychology. Long before neuroscience began exploring unconscious behavior, Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung proposed an idea that continues to transform the way millions of people understand conflict, identity, and emotional suffering. He believed that every human being carries an invisible side of the personality, a hidden psychological territory. A place filled with qualities we rejected, denied, feared, or buried because we believed they were unacceptable. He called it the shadow. The shadow is not evil, it is simply everything we refuse to recognize within ourselves. Every child enters the world expressing emotions freely: curiosity, anger, joy, fear, confidence, neediness, creativity, selfishness, tenderness. Nothing is divided into good or bad. But slowly, the world begins to teach us which parts of ourselves deserve love, and which parts deserve rejection. Perhaps you were told that expressing anger made you disrespectful, that crying made you weak, that speaking confidently made you arrogant, that saying no made you selfish. Little by little, you learned an invisible lesson. If I want to be accepted, I must hide certain parts of myself. Those rejected pieces never disappear. They simply move underground. Like seeds buried beneath the soil, they continue growing where you cannot see them. Years pass, you build a career, relationships, dreams, responsibilities. You believe you know exactly who you are. But beneath the surface, your shadow patiently waits, not to destroy you, but to be seen. The problem begins when something or someone awakens it. Imagine meeting a person who speaks without fear. Immediately you think, they're so arrogant. But what if the discomfort isn't caused by their confidence? What if it comes from the confidence you never allowed yourself to express? Or perhaps you meet someone who refuses to please everyone. They're selfish. Maybe. Or maybe they're simply living with boundaries you secretly wish you had. This is where the mind performs one of its most fascinating psychological tricks. Instead of recognizing what exists within us, it projects those hidden qualities onto other people. Projection is one of the most powerful defense mechanisms ever identified in psychology. It allows the conscious mind to protect the identity it has carefully constructed, because admitting certain truths about ourselves feels threatening. Far easier, far safer, to believe someone else carries those qualities instead. Carl Jung once suggested that everything that irritates us about others can lead us toward a better understanding of ourselves. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't claim that difficult people don't exist. They certainly do. Some individuals are manipulative, some are abusive, some intentionally cause harm. Recognizing projection doesn't mean excusing unhealthy behavior. It means asking a deeper question before assuming the entire problem exists outside of us. Why does this particular person affect me so much? Why them and not someone else? Why does their behavior stay in my mind for hours, sometimes days, sometimes years? Psychology offers an extraordinary observation. Facts rarely disturb us. Interpretations do. Two people can witness the exact same event. One laughs, the other feels deeply offended. The event didn't create the emotion, the mind did, which means every emotional reaction tells two stories. One about reality, and another about ourselves. The tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives studying everyone except the one person they truly need to understand. They analyze politicians, celebrities, neighbors, coworkers, family members, partners, friends, enemies, everyone except themselves. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates famously declared, "Know thyself." More than 2,000 years later, those words remain one of the greatest psychological challenges humanity has ever received. Because self-knowledge isn't comfortable. It demands courage. Not the courage to fight others, but the courage to question the image we have carefully built of ourselves. The ego prefers certainty. It wants simple answers, heroes and villains, right and wrong, good people and bad people. But reality is rarely that simple. Human beings are beautifully contradictory. The same person capable of extraordinary kindness can also carry hidden envy. The most generous individual may secretly crave recognition. The calmest person may hide unimaginable anger. None of this makes us broken. It makes us human. And perhaps that is why mirrors are so unsettling. A mirror doesn't flatter, it doesn't comfort, it simply reflects. The people who trigger us emotionally often perform the same function. Without realizing it, they expose invisible wounds, forgotten fears, suppressed desires, and hidden insecurities we have spent years trying to ignore. Not because they created them, but because they revealed them. The question is no longer whether difficult people exist. They do. The real question is far more unsettling. What exactly are they reflecting back to you? Because the answer to that question may become the beginning of the most important journey you will ever take. Not the journey into another person's mind, but into your own. And what you'll discover there may completely change the way you see every conflict you've ever had. If the people who disturb us act like mirrors, then the next question becomes unavoidable. What exactly are they reflecting? Carl Jung believed the answer lies within three invisible forces that quietly shape every human life: the shadow, the persona, and the ego. These are not abstract philosophical ideas. They influence every conversation you have, every relationship you build, every conflict you experience, and every decision you make, often without your awareness. To understand why certain people trigger such powerful emotions, we must first understand the hidden architecture of the mind. Imagine an enormous theater. On the brightly lit stage stands the version of yourself that the world sees. Confident, responsible, kind, professional, calm. This is the person you introduce to society. Behind the curtain, however, lies another world. Dark corridors filled with forgotten memories, rejected emotions, hidden desires, childhood fears, jealousy, pride, insecurity, anger, vulnerability, and dreams you never allowed yourself to pursue. Most people spend their entire lives performing on the stage while pretending the backstage doesn't exist. But the backstage never disappears. This hidden world is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is often misunderstood. People imagine it as something evil or dangerous, but Jung's idea was far more profound. The shadow is simply everything you have rejected about yourself. Some of it is painful, some of it is beautiful. Many people suppress anger because they were taught that good people never get angry. Others suppress ambition because they fear appearing selfish. Some bury their sensitivity because vulnerability once brought humiliation. Others hide creativity because they were mocked as children. Every time you reject a genuine part of yourself, it doesn't vanish. It simply moves into the unconscious. The shadow grows stronger with every rejected emotion. Not because it wants control, but because every neglected part of the psyche seeks recognition. Psychologically speaking, ignored emotions do not disappear. They become unconscious behaviors. Have you ever promised yourself you would stay calm, only to explode over something insignificant? Have you ever wondered why a small criticism ruined your entire day? Or why one person's success suddenly filled you with resentment you couldn't explain? These reactions rarely begin in the present moment. They emerge from the invisible conversations happening beneath consciousness. The shadow speaks long before the conscious mind realizes it. Yet there is another character standing beside it, the persona. If the shadow is everything hidden, the persona is everything displayed. The word itself comes from the masks worn by actors in ancient Roman theater. Those masks allowed performers to become someone else before an audience. Jung believed modern life works much the same way. Every social environment asks us to wear a different mask. At work, you become efficient. With friends, you become relaxed. With family, perhaps you become responsible. Online, maybe you become confident, successful, and emotionally balanced. None of these identities are necessarily false. The persona is not a lie. It is an adaptation. It helps us function in society. Without it, civilization would be impossible. But problems begin when we forget that the mask is only a mask. Many people become so attached to their persona that they begin believing it is their entire identity. The successful executive who believes weakness is unacceptable. The caring parent who never admits exhaustion. The spiritual seeker who believes negative emotions should never exist. The motivational speaker who secretly is hopeless. The person everyone admires who no longer recognizes themselves. Every mask demands a sacrifice. The stronger the persona becomes, the deeper the shadow often grows. Because every quality displayed publicly usually requires another quality to remain hidden. Someone who constantly projects certainty may secretly fear failure. Someone admired for generosity may secretly crave appreciation. Someone who appears fearless may carry overwhelming anxiety. The mind creates balance, even when we refuse to acknowledge it. This brings us to the third force, the ego. Modern culture often treats the ego as arrogance, but Jung used the term differently. The ego is simply the center of conscious identity. It answers one fundamental question: who am I? The ego organizes memories, experiences, beliefs, values. It creates the story you tell yourself every day. I am honest, I am intelligent, I am kind, I am independent. These statements become the foundation of your identity. The ego depends on consistency. It desperately wants reality to confirm the image it has built. And that is precisely why projection exists. Whenever evidence threatens the ego's story, the mind searches for another explanation. Imagine someone who believes they are always compassionate, then one day they feel intense hatred toward another person. This emotion doesn't fit the identity they have created. Instead of asking, "Why do I feel this?" the ego immediately shifts responsibility outward. They deserve my hatred. They're toxic. They're the problem. Sometimes that assessment is partially true, but often the emotional intensity reveals something much deeper. The ego protects identity before it protects truth. This is one of the most fascinating paradoxes of human psychology. We believe we see reality objectively. Yet much of what we call reality has already passed through countless invisible psychological filters. Fear, memory, belief, identity, expectation, emotion. The world we experience is never just the world itself. It is the world interpreted by our minds. That interpretation explains why two people can encounter the same individual and leave with completely different impressions. One sees confidence, another sees arrogance. One sees authenticity, another sees selfishness. One feels inspired, another feels threatened. The person may not have changed at all. The observer did. Every reaction begins inside the observer before it reaches the outside world. This realization can feel unsettling. If our perceptions are shaped by unconscious forces, can we ever trust ourselves? Jung believed we could, but only if we developed the courage to observe our own minds without judgment. Not every emotional reaction is projection. Not every conflict reveals the shadow. Some people truly behave in harmful ways. Healthy boundaries remain essential. The goal is not to doubt every instinct. The goal is to become curious whenever an emotional reaction seems larger than the situation itself. Curiosity transforms unconscious suffering into conscious growth. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with them?" you begin asking, "What is this experience awakening inside me?" That single question changes everything. Because the greatest discoveries in psychology rarely happen while studying other people. They happen the moment we become willing to study ourselves. The people who challenge us are not always enemies. Sometimes they are unexpected teachers. Not because they possess extraordinary wisdom, but because they unknowingly illuminate the places within us that still long to be understood. And perhaps the most difficult mirror to face is not the one standing in front of us. It is the one that has always existed within. By now, one question may still be echoing in your mind. If projection is real, why don't we notice it? Why can something happening inside us feel so convincingly as though it's happening outside us? The answer is surprisingly simple. Projection is invisible to the person experiencing it. It feels like objective reality. You don't wake up thinking, "I'm about to project my shadow onto someone today." Instead, you feel absolutely convinced that another person's behavior is the entire source of your emotional reaction. And that certainty is exactly what makes projection so powerful. It doesn't disguise itself as imagination. It disguises itself as truth. That is why Carl Jung insisted that the unconscious is dangerous, not because it is evil, but because what remains unconscious quietly directs our lives without our permission. He famously warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about how often conflict appears in everyday life. At work, at home, in friendships, in romantic relationships, even while scrolling through social media. The same psychological mechanism keeps repeating itself in different forms. Imagine arriving at work on a Monday morning. Your colleague walks confidently into the meeting room. They speak with certainty. They defend their ideas. They refuse to apologize for taking space. Almost immediately, irritation begins to grow inside you. They're so full of themselves. They think they're better than everyone. They're impossible to work with. Perhaps you're right. Some people truly are arrogant. But now imagine another possibility. What if their confidence is awakening something you've spent years suppressing? Maybe you were raised to believe humility meant remaining silent. Maybe every time you expressed confidence as a child, someone called you arrogant. Slowly, you learned to make yourself smaller. Now, every confident person reminds you, not consciously, but emotionally, of the confidence you abandoned long ago. Without realizing it, you're no longer reacting only to them. You're reacting to your own unfinished story. This is how projection works. It transforms another person's existence into a mirror reflecting parts of yourself you've forgotten. The same thing happens inside families. Family relationships are often the most emotionally charged because they helped shape our earliest identities. Imagine a son who constantly criticizes his father for being emotionally distant. Every conversation becomes an argument. Every silence feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels personal. Years later, the son becomes a father himself. His own children begin describing him using the exact same words. Emotionally unavailable, difficult to approach. Always working, always distracted. The cycle continues not because anyone consciously chose it, but because unconscious patterns rarely disappear on their own. They repeat. Psychology often refers to this as repetition compulsion. Carl Jung approached it differently. He believed the psyche continually recreates unresolved experiences until consciousness finally interrupts the cycle. Life keeps presenting the lesson until we become willing to learn it. Romantic relationships offer perhaps the clearest examples of projection. Think about how often people describe meeting the perfect person. At first, they see only beauty. Only kindness, only intelligence, only compatibility. The partner appears almost magical. Months later, everything changes. Now that same person seems selfish, insensitive, cold, controlling. What happened? Did they completely transform overnight? Probably not. In many cases, the projections changed. At the beginning of love, we often project our deepest hopes onto another person. Later, we project our deepest fears. The individual standing before us may remain largely the same, yet our unconscious keeps changing the story we believe we're seeing. The mirror hasn't moved. Our reflection has. Social media has amplified this phenomenon in ways previous generations could never have imagined. Every day, millions of people encounter strangers they'll never meet. Within seconds, powerful emotions emerge: admiration, envy, resentment, disgust, obsession. Why can a 30-second video posted by someone you've never met affect your emotional state for hours? Because projection doesn't require proximity, it only requires emotional activation. A successful entrepreneur posts about financial freedom. Some viewers feel inspired, others feel irritated. Someone shares pictures from a dream vacation. One person smiles, another immediately feels inadequate. An artist displays their work online. Some admire the courage, others rush into the comments to criticize. The content didn't create identical reactions, the viewers did. Every screen has become another mirror, and most people mistake the reflection for reality. The unconscious doesn't distinguish between physical and digital spaces. It projects wherever emotion finds a target. Perhaps nowhere is projection more destructive than in envy. Envy is one of the emotions society encourages us to deny. Few people willingly admit, "I wish I had what they have." Instead, the mind often creates another explanation. They don't deserve their success. They must have cheated. They're fake. They're lucky. Sometimes those statements contain elements of truth, but sometimes they protect us from confronting something much more painful: our own unlived potential. Jung believed the shadow contains not only our rejected weaknesses, but also our rejected greatness. This idea surprises many people. We usually imagine the shadow as containing anger, fear, selfishness, or aggression. But what about hidden brilliance, hidden leadership, hidden creativity, hidden ambition? Many people suppress their greatest strengths because success itself feels dangerous. Perhaps they fear judgment. Perhaps they fear responsibility. Perhaps they fear becoming different from the people around them, so they bury their gifts. Then, whenever someone else shines, the buried potential begins demanding attention. The resulting emotion often feels like resentment. But beneath resentment, there is grief. Grief for the life we never allowed ourselves to live. This explains why two people can witness the same achievement with completely different emotions. One feels inspired, the other feels threatened. The difference isn't the achievement, the difference is the relationship each person has with themselves. Projection also shapes the stories we tell about our enemies. History repeatedly demonstrates how easily groups divide the world into heroes and villains. Religions, politics, nations, communities, families. Every group believes virtue belongs to us, darkness belongs to them. Jung warned that this collective projection becomes incredibly dangerous. The less aware we become of our own capacity for selfishness, cruelty, fear, or hatred, the easier it becomes to imagine those qualities existing only in others. That illusion has fueled conflicts throughout human history. Not because evil exists only outside us, but because we refuse to recognize its possibility within us. This doesn't mean everyone shares equal responsibility for every conflict, nor does it excuse abuse or injustice. Healthy discernment remains essential. Some people truly manipulate, some betray, some intentionally harm others. Recognizing projection is not about abandoning wisdom. It's about refusing to let unconscious emotions become the only lens through which we interpret reality. Every emotionally charged encounter offers two opportunities. The first is to judge the other person. The second is to investigate ourselves. Most people choose the first because it feels easier. Far fewer choose the second because it demands courage. Yet only one of those paths leads toward genuine freedom. Because every mirror life places before you asks the same silent question. What inside you is asking to be seen? The answer may not always be comfortable, but it may become the beginning of the deepest transformation you've ever experienced. And in the final part of this journey, we'll discover how facing that reflection can transform your greatest emotional triggers into the very source of your freedom. Once you begin to recognize projection, a difficult truth becomes clear. The people who disturb you are not always the cause of your suffering. Sometimes, They are revealing the place where your suffering already lives. This realization can feel painful. It can also become one of the most liberating discoveries of your life. Because the moment you understand that some of your strongest reactions are connected to hidden parts of yourself, you stop being completely controlled by them. You begin to create space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where self-awareness begins. And according to Carl Jung, self-awareness is the first step toward becoming whole. Jung used the word individuation to describe this process. Individuation is not about becoming more successful, more admired, or more perfect. It is the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. Not the person society expects you to be, not the mask you created for approval, not the identity your ego desperately tries to protect, but the whole person beneath all of it. The conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow, the strengths and the wounds, the parts you celebrate and the parts you once rejected. Individuation begins when you stop asking, how can I become a better version of my persona? And start asking, what have I excluded from my own identity? This is where projection becomes useful. Every intense emotional reaction can become a doorway. The goal is not to eliminate emotion. The goal is to understand what the emotion is trying to reveal. The next time someone deeply irritates you, resist the immediate urge to define them. Pause. Observe the reaction inside your body. Is there tension in your chest, heat in your face, a tightening in your stomach, a sudden need to attack, withdraw, prove yourself, or gain control? Before the mind creates a story, the body often tells the truth. Something has been activated. The first step is to name the emotion without judging it. Anger, envy, fear, shame, resentment, disgust, insecurity. Naming an emotion does not make it stronger. It makes it visible. And what becomes visible can begin to change. Then ask a more difficult question. What exactly about this person affects me? Be precise, not simply, they annoy me. What do they represent? Their confidence, their freedom, their need for attention, their emotional distance, their ambition, their vulnerability, their selfishness, their success, their refusal to apologize. The more specific the answer becomes, the closer you move toward the hidden message. Then ask, where does this quality exist in me? At first, the answer may be denial. It doesn't. I would never behave that way. That is nothing like me. This is the ego protecting its identity. But the quality does not always appear in the same form. Perhaps you hate another person's arrogance because you secretly fear your own need to be recognized. Perhaps their laziness irritates you because you never allow yourself to rest. Perhaps their emotional dependence bothers you because you have rejected your own need for support. Perhaps their ambition disturbs you because you abandoned your own dreams. The mirror may distort the image, but it still reveals something. This does not mean you must become like the person you dislike. Integration is not imitation. It means reclaiming the healthy form of the quality you rejected. If you suppressed anger, integration does not require aggression. It may require boundaries. If you rejected ambition, integration does not require obsession. It may require direction. If you buried vulnerability, integration does not require emotional dependence. It may require honesty. If you denied confidence, integration does not require arrogance. It may require the courage to speak. The shadow often contains qualities that became distorted because they were never allowed to develop consciously. When brought into awareness, those same qualities can become sources of strength. This is why Jung did not believe the shadow should be destroyed. It should be integrated. A person who tries to eliminate the shadow only drives it deeper underground. A person who learns to understand it gains access to hidden energy, creativity, courage, and emotional freedom. But integration also requires responsibility. Self-awareness should never become an excuse to tolerate harmful behavior. If someone is abusive, manipulative, dishonest, or dangerous, the healthiest response may still be distance. You can recognize your projection and maintain a boundary at the same time. These truths are not opposites. You can say, this person's behavior is unacceptable, and also ask, Why does this affect me in the particular way that it does? One question protects your life. The other deepens your consciousness. Maturity requires both. Without boundaries, self-reflection becomes self-betrayal. Without self-reflection, boundaries can become weapons of the ego. The goal is neither blind acceptance nor constant suspicion. The goal is clarity. This process is difficult because the mind prefers blame. Blame creates temporary relief. It gives suffering a clear target. But blame also gives away power. As long as your emotional world depends entirely on someone else changing, you remain trapped. You wait for an apology, for recognition, for justice, for them to finally understand what they did. Sometimes that moment comes, often it does not. But your freedom cannot depend on another person's transformation. It must begin with your own. That is the deeper gift hidden inside projection. It shows you where your power has been placed outside yourself. Every person you obsess over occupies psychological space. Every argument you replay keeps the emotional bond alive. Every judgment repeated in your mind strengthens the invisible connection. You may believe hatred creates distance. Psychologically, it often creates attachment. The person you cannot stand continues living inside your thoughts. They become an internal character, a voice, a wound, a symbol. Freedom begins when you stop asking how to defeat them and begin asking what their presence has awakened in you. Perhaps they awakened an old fear of rejection. Perhaps they exposed your need for approval. Perhaps they revealed a boundary you never learned to defend. Perhaps they reflected a life you were too afraid to pursue. Once the lesson becomes conscious, the mirror has completed its purpose. You no longer need to carry the person everywhere you go. This is individuation in practice, not a dramatic moment of enlightenment, but a series of honest encounters with yourself, a willingness to say, "This reaction belongs to me. This wound needs my attention. This quality deserves integration. This pattern ends here." Slowly, the unconscious loses its control. The shadow becomes less frightening, the persona becomes less rigid, the ego becomes less defensive, and the person you are beneath all those layers begins to emerge. You become less reactive, less easily manipulated, less dependent on external validation. Not because the world becomes kinder, but because you understand yourself more deeply. The people who once controlled your emotions lose their power. Their words may still matter, their actions may still require a response, but they no longer define your inner world. And perhaps this is the final truth behind the mirror. The person you cannot stand may never become your friend. They may never apologize, they may never change, but they can still become part of your transformation. Not through what they teach you consciously, but through what they reveal unconsciously. The mirror does not choose what you see. It only reflects what is already there. And the moment you stop running from that reflection, something profound happens. Your enemy becomes a teacher, your trigger becomes a message, your shadow becomes a guide, and the parts of yourself you once feared begin returning home. So the next time someone awakens anger, envy, resentment, or disgust within you, pause before turning away. Look carefully, ask what is being reflected, because the face in front of you may belong to someone else, but the truth inside the mirror may be entirely your own. And perhaps the journey toward freedom does not begin when other people finally change. Perhaps it begins when you become willing to see yourself clearly. If this reflection spoke to something hidden within you, subscribe to Beyond the Mind. Here we explore psychology, philosophy, Carl Jung, human behavior, and the unconscious forces shaping who we become. And before you leave, ask yourself one final question. Who is the person you cannot stand? And what might they be trying to reveal about you?